Hi guys, welcome to Discover the Wild at the Territory Wildlife Park. My name is Shael, I'm one of the divers here at the park, and today I'm really excited to be taking you on a dive with me into the tunnel tank exhibit in our aquarium. We'll be feeding lots of fish and cleaning the tunnel tank. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a hot day, the cool water will be awesome, and I'm so glad you can join me. I'll see you down there. So here I am with our barramundi. We're in exhibit 12, which is the tunnel tank of the aquarium. Barramundi are iconic fish species from the top end of Australia. They're very beautiful and very large, as you can see in these images. When you do visit the wildlife park, the tunnel glass distorts the size of the barra, so they actually look smaller than they really are. Our barramundi are about 1 metre long and probably weigh between 30 and 40 kilos. Our barramundi come from the Darwin Aquaculture Centre and they're post-breeders, which means when they've finished their breeding life cycle at the Aquaculture Centre, they can come and live with us and have a new lease on life. And they do live a very lovely life with us. As you can see, we feed them lots of nice fat fish. The fish we feed them are a mix of mullet, whitebait and other bait fish. And we do put nutrients inside those fish sometimes just to make sure they stay extra healthy. All of these barramundi have their own unique personalities and they're all very curious and used to humans being in the water with them. And even when you stand above the water, they will come and watch you and look at you, and always looking as if they're waiting to be fed an extra fish. The barramundi will follow us around the tank as we clean the tank and feed other fish, and they also feed very well themselves, as you can see here. The barra boof is an interesting way of feeding. Barramundi don't chomp on the fish, they suck it into their mouths. They open their jaws and gills very rapidly and create a strong vacuum which sucks the fish in. If we're not careful with our fingers, sometimes they will also suck our fingers into their mouths. Luckily, they quickly realise that that's not food and nothing bad happens as a result of that. So I always really enjoy feeding our barramundi. They are beautiful creatures and it is a really special and unique thing to be able to be in the water with creatures and look into their eyes and know that they're seeing you and they're curious about you and as curious about you as you are about them. So now I'm feeding our little whiprays. These two little freshwater whiprays have been with us for about 18 months. They are real cheeky little cuties. They will always try and get in and eat the other fish food before it's their time to feed if they possibly can. They do also follow us around the tank. They're very curious, and as they have barbs on their tails, as you'd probably know about stingrays and other whiprays, they are the bosses of the tank and other fish tend to leave them alone. We feed the whipray on the tunnels. As you can see, I'm popping the food under their flaps and getting it into their mouths so that the public can see how they eat their food. Whiprays don't have teeth like humans do. They have little grinding plates, so they actually chew that fish and mash it up in their mouths and swallow it. So the whipray's natural feeding mechanism is to rush fish into the shallows and then cover them with their disc and then suck the fish into their mouths. So you can see a similar act occurring on the tunnel tank when we feed them. And the most interesting thing is to see how they get that fish into their mouths and then chew it up. It's always quite funny, and I know lots of kids always laugh when they watch the little whipray lips moving around their fish. Whiprays are very interesting animals to feel. The top side of their bodies is really rough, a little bit like sandpaper, and the underside is incredibly smooth and soft. On their tip of their disc, their little nose is very, very sensitive and soft, and they actually like that being touched. It's like the way that we would pat a dog. The whiprays really enjoy being touched. They are very tactile creatures, and here at the wildlife park we often refer to them as our big wet puppies. Not a lot is known about whipray growth rates in the wild up here in northern Australia. We expect that these two little whiprays will grow up to 2 metres, and perhaps one day we may breed whiprays. We've had whiprays in our Ulu sandbar now for approximately 10 years, and some of them have grown very large. So we're hoping that these two in the tank do equally as well as the ones that we have outside. The whipray barbs are not threatening to humans when we dive in the tank. And this is because the whiprays are so used to us handling them and feeding them and diving around them. They actually seem to like company. It's exciting for them to have a human in the tank with them. And there's been no reason ever that we've had to be concerned about any threats from our little friends. So the catfish that we have here in the tank are real cheeky little dudes. They hang around and they will always take as many fish as they can. They're all little greedy gutses. Again, not threatening to us at all. They're very, very friendly, very used to people being around. There's one in particular that I've nicknamed him in my mind Charlie. You can see him here hanging around me, waiting for a little fish. He comes in really close and he always tries to eyeball you, and it always seems as if he's telepathically trying to encourage you to give him as many fish as you're willing to do. But yes, he is a real little cutie, that guy. Catfish are all very cheeky, and the characters between the different fish in the tank is very interesting. All of the fish have their own personalities, and species also have certain species personalities. And one of the great things about diving regularly here at the Wildlife Park is you get to learn all of these things. You learn how to appreciate the animals as individuals and as species, and it gives you a real insight and a greater level of compassion into how animals survive in the wild. So here I'm cleaning the tank. We need to clean this tank 2 to 3 times every week. So that's to maintain water quality, obviously, and to get old fish scales and other bits and pieces that might be in the water out. So we do 2 things. What I'm using here is a gravel vacuum cleaner. So similar to any vacuum that you'd use at home, just obviously underwater. So I put that gravel vacuum cleaner on top of the gravel and it sucks it up, sucks out any muck at the same time, and then the clean gravel is released and falls to the bottom of the tank. You can also see I'm cleaning up other bits and pieces from around the tunnel. And if it needs it, I will also grab a cleaning cloth and I'll clean the inside of the tunnel and take any growth or algae or anything that's growing on there off that as well. So cleaning the tank is an interesting exercise. It does give you a bit of exercise, good upper body strength there. And it's lovely when you finish the dive and you know that the tunnel's clean, the fish are well fed, and everyone's happy and ready to have a little afternoon siesta after an afternoon dive. Well guys, that's a wrap. Thanks for diving with me today. We have lots of lovely well-fed fish and a beautiful clean tank. Hope to see you again on Discover the Wild with the Territory Wildlife Park. Cheers!